Good morning. How are you all doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Afriforex daily analysis. This beautiful 24th day of July. I hope you guys are well. Hope you've had a good time on the chat this week so far, and of course yesterday. Hope you had a good time on the chat, and of course in everything else that we're doing. But we're really glad that you could join us. As I always say, I know you're busy people, but thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. So for the sake of guys who are new to me and to us, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So it's not a one-man show, like we always say. So we do have Mitch. He is working in the back office. So in case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them, both on the Q&A section and also on the chat box. Mitch will be getting back to you, but we always do prefer that you do ask your questions in the Q&A section so that at least I can also have a look at them towards the very end of the session. But remember, you don't need to ask your questions at the very end of the session. You still can ask your questions even as the webinar does end up progressing on. You will get a favorable response from Mitch. So we're going to jump straight into it. We're going to start off by looking at the watch list. You can see that there's not been much of a change for the third day running. You can see we're more or less looking at the same thing. There's quite a number of fundamentals that have come out, but nothing really much in terms of changing our biases. So that means that if that's the case, we can definitely start off by looking at a couple of screenshots that we did end up getting. We did get 3 screenshots. So we'll start off with this one from Christine. So this is on the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So it seems like you got 2 very good selling opportunities. And of course, I can see that the market was moving down in your favor. Stop losses for both trades somewhere within this region right here, which is good. So in terms of where you got the sell high up, the market was coming down, good money management. Don't know where you're targeting, but regardless, at least you put in some good money management measures on that one. So shout out to you, Christine, for that if you're here or if you're watching from wherever it is that you're watching from. So we also did get a screenshot from George Shege. So this is on gold. So I can see you got a sell on this one. Stop loss below your point of entry or at break even, which is good. Can see that you did manage your trade somewhere within this region right here. And I can see that you're just targeting down within this region. Definitely a region where you can see that the buyers have come in from before. So that's an okay region to actually end up managing your trade or taking profit at that point in time, and also some really good money management. So shout out to you, George, for that as well. So we also did get a screenshot from Mark Ingori. So this is on the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So it seems like you got a very good sell somewhere within this region. Definitely a very good area to look for the sell. You can see the sellers coming in aggressively. Market pulled back in within that region. Got the sells there, and I can see that your stop loss is below your point of entry as the market is continuing to move down. So this is also very, very good trading. So shout out to you for that, Mark Mori as well. So shout out to Mark, Christine, George for sending in those screenshots. Always really happy to see what guys are up to on the chat. So remember, guys, feel free to send in your screenshots, whether good or bad. Not a competition, but like we always say, we just want to see what you guys are up to, just to see that the information that we're giving you guys is actually beneficial to you guys. And also remember that this is also mentorship experience right here. So if you end up sending in your screenshots, at least we'll give you feedback on what you can end up changing to make your trading that much better. And remember that the advice that we give you goes a long way, not only in helping you, but very many other people who do actually end up tuning in each and every morning. So feel free to send in your screenshots via WhatsApp. Our contact details should be there on the chat box. For guys who are watching us on our social media platforms, I think the contact details should also be maybe on the video descriptions. If they are not, then just go to www.afriforex.com. You will find our contact details there. You can send in your screenshots via WhatsApp to us. So we're going to shift gears into matters today. And you can see right there, for the guys who've checked in a bit late, the watch list is the same for the third day running. So we will be looking at more or less the same things. The only change that's there is only on gold, which has gone to the buy side, but we will be having a look at that. But pretty much everything else is more or less the same. So the first one off the line, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair that we had yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, at a time like this yesterday, price was somewhere within this region. And wanted to see if we could either get the market breaking to the downside of this region, or possibly waiting to see if we could get some sort of a pullback coming in, either within this region or somewhere within this area right here. But you can see that the market within the London session really struggled to push to the upside. There was also this area right here that we're expecting maybe get the market coming back in within there. But you can see that the market even just came shy of that area, which shows that the New Zealand dollar didn't really have much strength to fight back. And you can see that the market really held within here. And today during the Asian session, you can see that the market has really moved to the downside. So we will still be trying to see whether we can get sells. Since the sell that we wanted to see yesterday has happened today. So these are the three areas we will be trying to see whether we can get our trades, and also areas we can manage our trades. So do watch out for those three areas right there. And of course, remember to wait for the pullback. In as much as we're waiting for the trades to work out yesterday, and they did work out today, you don't really need to chase. So just make sure that you do wait and see what happens within this region. You can see that the buyers somehow are attempting to push the market back in within this region. So we'll be waiting to see what happens. Either if the market breaks to the downside and holds below here, then we could look for the sells, and we could look for more conservative selling opportunities. If not, then we'll be waiting to see if we can get the market coming back in, maybe somewhere within this region, or maybe even at the top within there. That's if, if the big boys decide that they do want that price. So do watch out for those three areas right there, but don't really chase. Right now, we're more or less within an area of support, something almost similar to this yesterday. So you can't quite tell what the big boys or the London big boys could be up to. You could find that during the London session, the market could pull back in within this region, and maybe during the US session, you could find the market back in within this region, at around 3-4:30, and you could find that that's when another selling opportunity could come through. So you don't really need to chase, you just need to be patient. So the next one, the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you clearly can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the chart, the price was somewhere within here. I did point out that hopefully if we got the market coming back in within this region right here, then this would have been the proper area to look for the sells. Remember that there was this area right here that I also pointed out that there was a minor SNR, and you didn't really want to hit your sells so close within this region. And you can see that the buyers did react off this region quite a number of times. You can see that the market broke to the upside. Although it did seem like it wanted to hold to the upside, maybe you'd have expected possibly the market coming back in within this region, but it just couldn't get that far. You can see that the market came back into the downside of this region. But again, you can see that during the Asian session, that's when the sellers have decided to show up. So yesterday, there wasn't really much that was going on. So the levels for this one are the same. So the market hasn't really moved far and beyond the regions that we were watching out for. So we'll be more or less watching out for the same regions. You can see that blue SNR right here where the market has broken to the downside, come back in within here. You could also somehow technically find some selling opportunities within this area. That's if you're really good at reading the story of what's going on, because if the market comes back in and attempts to break to the upside of this choppy, messy range that it seems like the market was holding yesterday, the fact that it's broken to the downside, you get confirmation that the market is holding to the downside, maybe even an attempt to break to the upside of this region, which ends up being unsuccessful, then of course you could possibly try and see whether you could get sells, coming down off that region, coming down here. But of course, also do watch out for the major levels. Of course, this one being a major level, of course, if the market comes back in, and of course at the top, in case the sellers do need that price, at least you will be ready for it. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But remember that that is going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, also a currency pair that we had yesterday, trying to see whether we could get sells. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out where we could potentially have looked for selling opportunities. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. So at around 9:10. You can see that price was somewhere within here. I did point out that there was somewhere where we did have a level within here. And you could have found that maybe the market could have come back in within this region right here, and you could have found some sales happening there, although it was a really minor level. And you can see that the market broke to the upside of this region, came all the way till the top within here. You can see that during the US session, the sellers really struggled to push the market to the downside, in a very choppy manner, but you can see that the sellers worked off somewhere within this region right here. So for this one, for today, the levels are also the same. You can see that the market has not really moved far and beyond the regions that we also did have on this one. So we'll be watching out for the same areas. Maybe I can take out this region. So do watch out for those three areas right there. Don't look for the sells right now. Wait and see if you can get the market possibly reacting off this region to the upside. You can see that buyers have reacted off here before. So the fact that we're back within our buyers, give them the benefit of doubt. You could find the market pulling back up, maybe back in within this region right here. You can see that the market maybe somehow could start to form some sort of a range, maybe more even visible on the 1 hour time frame to some extent. So you could find that maybe proper sells are still possibly somewhere within this region right here. So also watch out for the region at the top. Definitely seems like a region that's hanging in the middle of nowhere, but you could find that the market could come back in there because it's also a level that's visible on the bigger time frame. So moving on into the last Swiss franc pair, this is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we were also trying to see whether we could get sells, something almost similar to the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So you can see almost something similar to what happened. Even this one was within some sort of a buyer's region. Wanted to see what reaction we could have gotten within here, hopefully getting the market back in within here. But there was also this minus NR that I did put in within there where possibly you could have found the market coming back in within there. You can see that the market just came shy of that region, then came down, really held within here. Before during the Asian session, you can see that the market broke to the downside, held, and then after that moved to the downside. What we were expecting, or what I illustrated here, where the market attempted to go to the upside, and you can see the whole of this could account for this probe that had drawn here, and the market coming back in, only for it to move to the downside during the Asian session, which it's not really the best thing because, it's a sell we wanted to see yesterday. Unfortunately, it didn't happen yesterday. But it's also not, uncommon, to see that the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar have moved during the Asian session because, of course, they are more active within that session. So we'll just have to wait and see whether we can get the pullbacks coming in. So this one is also exactly similar to what's happening to the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So let's see if we can get the buyers pushing the market back in within here. You can already see that they've already started doing something off this region. So let's just see if we can get the market coming back in within here. This one is a bit of a long shot, but like we always point out, anything is possible, it comes to the Forex market. So you could find the market back in within there. But ideally, let's watch out for this region here. In case the market doesn't get all the way till there, then I guess we could wait and see whether we could get a breach of this region to the downside. Maybe something similar to what we're expecting within this region yesterday. So if the market comes down, breaks and holds below here, then at least at that point, then we could resume with our selling opportunities. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Remember to watch out for the times, like we always point out, 10, 3 and 4:30, you could find some good opportunities at that point in time. So just make sure that you do wait. Maybe the market needs a session to set up. So you could find that maybe during the London session, the market could be setting itself up only to actually end up moving during the US session. So you also need to just make sure that you're a bit more patient for things to actually end up playing out the way you want to see them. So that's pretty much it for the Swiss franc pairs. So we can move on to the USD pairs and we'll mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. You can clearly see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here. So you can see that at around 910, price was within here. We wanted to see if we could have possibly gotten the buyers pushing the market to the upside, maybe back somewhere within this region right here for the proper sales. That didn't happen. But you can see that the market broke to the downside and held. You can see that at 3, price was holding below this region to the downside. And you can see that the market started to move to the downside. But it's only during the Asian session that the markets really picked up, a lot of steam. And of course, this being an NZD, you can definitely see that, of course, the big boys on that side were definitely active, during the Asian session. So for this one, we're also going to be waiting to see whether we can get the pullbacks coming in. The pullback has started. The market has bounced off this region. seems to be bouncing off. Let's just keep our fingers crossed and hope that the market can come back in somewhere within this area right here. If it can, then ideally we will try and time and see whether we could get some sales there. If not, and this price is not good enough, then we'll be trying to see whether we can get the sales higher up, maybe somewhere within this region right here. So do watch out for that. Remember that in case things are slow during the London session, just wait for the US session. Of course, all of these ones having been matched up with the USDs, you could find things could be active at 3, moving into 430. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, we're watching out for sales. You can clearly see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the charts, if we just go back to a time like this yesterday, so at around 9:10, price was somewhere within here. We're expecting, hopefully, to get the price coming back in as close as possible within here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. Seems like the market turned around somewhere within this region. Possibly could have been some sort of a minor SNR within this area here. And you can see that the market came to the downside, but unfortunately couldn't quite hold, to the downside. So you can see that the market seemed like it probed within there. Then it came back in, held to the upside. You wouldn't really have been too sure of what would have happened. Maybe the US big boys would have possibly pushed the market back in within this region. But you can see that there was really nothing. And you can see the struggle that was there all through the US session. The market broke to the downside of this area. And you can see that during the Asian session, from around midnight 1, you can see that the sellers or the big boys in that side of the world side pushed the market to the downside. So for this one, a bit of a choppy mess, but it's interesting to see from the screenshots. I can't quite remember who it was who got the sell on this one. I don't know if it was George who got this one. But of course, good job in terms of getting the sell. But I think you had to read it maybe on a smaller time frame just to get, this sell coming down. So for this one, these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for today. Definitely can see that we're also somehow within some sort of a buyer's area here. So you don't really want to be hitting yourselves right now. Let us hope these buyers, since you can see that they've pushed once off this area when the market came down within here, let's see if they can get the market back in within here on their second attempt. At least if we can get some sales off here, I think those ones will be proper. So that at least by the time the market gets back in within here, if we do get some issues, then this is an area where you can manage your trades. So watch out for that. Also watch out for this region. Definitely you should be managing there. And of course, this region at the top, in case the market decides to get back in within there, then at least just make sure that you're ready for that. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the 3 areas right there that I had pointed out. And in the morning, when we're looking at the chart, price was somewhere within this region here. So at around 9:10, we're just challenging, these sellers who are sitting here, and we wanted to see what they were going to do. And you can see that they did react. Of course, not a reaction like the one that they had the previous time. But of course, you can see that there was a reaction by them, and the market did push to the upside during the US session. And you can see a sign of the big boys right there pushing the market to the upside. The market held, which means that if you did attempt buys within here during the US session, even if you kept your stops here or somewhere within here, you can see that the market did continue moving to the upside, although in a very choppy manner. But you can see that even moving into the Asian session, the market has continued to move up higher. So for this one, we'll still be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the 3 regions that we will be watching out for. So just make sure that you watch out for those 3 areas. Let's see what happens with this pullback. At least we're getting some sort of a discount starting to come in. We just need to see how far it can go, and just keep our fingers really crossed. Just really hoping that we can get the market coming back in within here, because if it does, then at least within this region you can get some proper risk to reward, as the market moves to the upside. So that even if the market comes back in within this region, you see, if you get the buy here, and even if you target here, even if the market just comes back in within here, at least you'll have sufficient room to actually manage, and you can come out with some proper profits. So let us hope the pullback comes in a bit deeper, and we will be timing within that. But also watch out for this region here. Definitely also a region where we can look for the buying opportunities. That's if the buyers do decide that they do want that price. So just make sure that you're also ready for that. But remember that that's going to be the last year where we will be trying to see whether we can get buys. If the market breaks beneath that region and holds below it, then unfortunately at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, on the USD pairs, we have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday looking for sales. And you can see how the Australian dollar has really been getting hammered by the US dollar. So no pullbacks. You can see that even within this region right here, when the market broke to the downside, we're expecting maybe the market to come back in within here. It just came shy of that area, but you can see that the market just continued to inch lower, pip by pip. And during the Asian session, you can see that things did really pick up some steam. So it tells you that the USD pairs are quite strong. Even just looking at all of them, there's not that much in terms of pullbacks, which means that the big boys have really decided, that they are really going to be buying the USD. So we'll be trying to see whether we can join them. But unfortunately, if we can't get pullbacks, we can't get into the trades. Because remember, we always talk about looking for those pullbacks, trying to time the entries on the pullback. So when things end up running away like this and you get pullbacks, you can't quite read. It actually ends up being a bit hard in terms of getting entries. But the good thing about it is if you can actually end up getting the trade before and then the market starts to move like it is. I mean, for the people who had gotten the trades earlier, then for them, I mean, they're just smiling and laughing all the way to the bank. But you see, for us who are trying to jump in, it ends up being a bit of a tricky situation. So let's just hope we can get a proper pullback we can read. So right now you can see that the market has bounced off this region. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in within here. And of course, if we can get a pullback, we can read where we can visually see, the buyers who are coming in have been taken out. The sellers have started to show up. We can see a struggle, of the buyers. And then after that, jumping on the trade, then hopefully we can get that trade. So let's hope that we can get something like that within this region right here. This area, slim chance price could get there, especially considering how the Australian dollar has really been getting hammered. You can see that there hasn't been much of a pullback. So there's a slim chance price could get there. But, sometimes the big boys do actually come in and they shock the market. So in case that happens, then make sure that you're just ready for it. So watch out for those three areas right there. Remember to watch out for the times as well, 10, 3, and 4:30. And no matter what you do, always do make sure that you do trade with a stop loss. So that's pretty much it for the USD pairs. So let's move on to the next set of currency pairs, which are the Euro pairs. And we're going to mix and match up those ones with everything else on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. You can see the three regions right there that I had mapped out in terms of where you could potentially look for your buying opportunities. And if we just go back to a time like this yesterday, price was somewhere within this area right here. And you can see that at around 9:10, I told you guys this was in a good area to look for your buying opportunities. It was so close within this region. And remember that at that point in time, this region was just hanging somewhere within this region. Like a higher time frame level. So you wouldn't really have been able to tell if the market would have reacted off there, but at least it did. You can see that the market came back in within this region. And you can see that from around 3, price was back in within here, 4:30. Really wasn't much of a move. The market really struggled to pick itself off this region to the upside. But you can see that during the Asian session, from around 12:1, look at how the buyers have really pushed this market to the upside. Also not something uncommon, considering the fact that we have a New Zealand dollar on this one. So definitely very active during the Asian session. So we'll be trying to see whether we can still get buying opportunities on this one, if you did miss out on them yesterday. So the market has given us some sort of a discount, which is good. Let's just see if we can read, the slowdown of the sellers within this region right here. And hopefully you could find that during the London market open, at around maybe 10, 10:30, 11, within that time to see if we can get some buying opportunities pushing to the upside. So let's see whether we can get this one. It's not too bad, but also remember that this region right here, also a possibility price can pull back in a bit deeper, in case the market needs to come back in and retest this region, because this move going to the upside is also something that's quite visible on the bigger time frame. So you could find that based on that, the market might actually come back in within this region for some sort of a retest within this area. So just make sure that you also watch out for that. And that's the reason why we have that region mapped out as well. But remember that that's going to be the last area in terms of looking for the buys, because in case the market breaks beneath that region to the downside, then that means that it's also would have broken the structure on the bigger time frame. So that means that the buying opportunities would be off at that point in time. So moving on into the next euro pair. So this is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, also a currency pair we had yesterday. We're trying to look for buying opportunities on this one. The GBPs yesterday were giving a bit of a problem. So you can't see the three areas that I had pointed out. And in the morning when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. I did point out that it was best to wait and see if we could have gotten the price coming back in within here. You can see that the market came back in within here. The buyers showed up, but unfortunately, the market just couldn't hold to the upside of this region. If it had, maybe it could have been a good buying opportunity. It stops maybe somewhere within here, maybe targeting higher up within that area. But unfortunately, we couldn't get that. And you can see that the market just broke within there, came to the downside. There was an attempt of the buyers right here, and you can see that at around 3, there was an attempt. But I think based on how this seller had come down quite aggressively, I think the buyers within this region were a bit stunned. And you can see that the market even broke to the downside, but it came back in during the Asian session. And right now, the market seems like it's starting to move to the upside. So for this one, a bit of a tricky situation, but ideally the levels are the same. So we do have the conservative region at the top, all the way there. We do have the semi-aggressive conservative within that region there. Don't look for your buying opportunities right now. You never know if the market could bounce off this region and come back in within this area right here. So the best thing is to actually wait and see. You can get this market breaking above this region to the upside, maybe even challenging this seller who did start this push to the downside. And we see, some sort of a sloppy move coming down, but technically we end up seeing like some sort of a hold within this area, maybe even an attempt to break to the downside, which ends up being unsuccessful. Then we could potentially try and see whether we could get our buying opportunities at that point in time. So right now, be a bit patient. You're not so sure whether this level could end up reacting, and especially considering the fact that we are approaching 10, which is the London market open. The price is going to be back in within some sort of a seller's region. You don't know if the sellers during the London session will first push the market down back in within this area, and then maybe you could find that maybe at 3, 4:30, that's when the market could actually end up taking off to the upside. So just be a bit patient, wait and see, because alternatively, what you could find is that maybe the London big boys could break this level to the upside, maybe even challenge these guys right here. And you find that all through the London session, the market is setting itself up, something like this, only for it to be somewhere within here at around maybe 3, 4:30, and you could find that when the buy could actually end up taking off. So you just need to wait and see what the markets will possibly end up telling you. So for this one, a bit of patience will be advised. So moving on into the next euro pair, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. You can see the 3 areas that I had mapped out. And in the morning when I'm looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here. They did point out that it was best to wait and see what would have happened, maybe somewhere within here. But you can see that the sellers came down quite aggressively. So within this region, the buyers were a bit stunned. They couldn't really do anything. And unfortunately, within this region, the market broke to the downside. And unfortunately, when that happened, then that meant that this kind of pair was off our watch list. So for this one for today, we're back at it in terms of buys. Maybe yesterday the buyers or the big boys were just not interested in buying. So let's see if today, hopefully we can end up getting some strength coming in. But also remember that there are also quite a handful of Euro news events that are going to be coming out today. So you can see there's already this one that's come out, which shows that there should be some strength coming in for the euro. But you can see that there are also a bunch of Euro news events that are going to be coming out all through the day. So we will be expecting to possibly see some moves on the euros. But at least if things do end up maintaining in terms of positive news events, then we should hopefully be seeing this one going to the upside. So do watch out for those 3 areas right there. We've adjusted them accordingly. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in within this area right here. Definitely some very good buying opportunities could be somewhere within here. In case the market comes up, definitely we will be targeting there, but also watch out for this area. In case we get some issues, on the way up, then this is definitely your next problem area. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But also remember that there's also this region somewhere at the bottom right here. The market can still come back in within here, but of course, if it does, then we'll definitely have to wait and see if we can get a slowdown, of the sellers. Something similar to this, maybe somewhere within this region, but maybe with more in terms of, showing strength for the buyers. Because within this region, they didn't really end up showing strength as such. The market just came, bounced off here, decided to move to the upside, but there wasn't really a clear sign. So make sure that you watch out for this region at the bottom right there. And also make sure that you're in the Telegram channel as well, so that in case there is any change on the watch list, especially in regards to the euro and the Great British Pound, because you can see that there are also some GBP news events that will end up coming out at around 11:30. So you could find that maybe during the US session, there's a possibility we could have some alterations either with the Great British Pound or the euro, maybe even with both. So just make sure that you're in the Telegram channel in case that happens, then at least you will be in the know. So last but not least, for the euro pairs, we have the euro against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buys, and you can see the three regions that I had pointed out. In the morning, when we were looking at the charts at around this time yesterday, price was somewhere within here. So it just seemed like it had broken this region and was holding above here. Although this breach was not really the best. And you can see that definitely lots of people were seeing as if the market was holding above here. But we always talk about these weak breaches, whereby the market just breaks and holds above a region. Most of the times, this one's always, most of the time tend to be traps. Let me put it that way. So you can see that the market was holding here. Definitely lots of people were looking at the market coming up. And by them hitting the buys here, they definitely put their stops within here. But they didn't know that the big boys were setting them up. And you can see that the market came back into the downside. Definitely lots of guys were stopped out. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market coming back in all the way to within here. But you can see that there's a minus and R, within this region right here, which means that even if you did at least attempt some buys here during the US coming up, just to challenge this region and manage here, and of course leave it overnight to see what happens, then I'm sure you woke up to some very good profits this morning. So for this one, for today, we'll still be keeping up with the buys. Let me say for now, because remember there are also some Euro news events that are going to be coming out later on, so we'll have to wait and see what happens. But at least for now, we can look for buys. You can see that the buyers have pushed up quite aggressively, which is good. Let's wait and see what happens within this region here. If we can get a slowdown of the sellers, and hopefully, at around the London market open, we get a sign of the buyers showing up, then this could be a good buy coming up just to challenge that region. Make sure you manage within this area, even if you will be targeting areas much higher. So watch out for that. Also watch out for this region right here, the red SNR. That's going to be the last area where we will be attempting to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. If we can't get any within that region and the market breaks to the downside, then unfortunately for us, that currency pair will be off our watch list for today. So that's pretty much it for the euro pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are the yens. We're going to mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. The yens have really moved a lot. There's a lot of yen strength, just looking at all of them. And I mean, even as we go through the whole list of the yen pairs, just make sure that you have a keen eye for that. But you will see some very good correlation that's happening amongst the yen pairs. You can see, like for this one yesterday, these are the three areas that we had wanted to see the market break to the downside. It did. And you can see that during the London market open, price came down, pulled back in within here at exactly 3 price was somewhere back within there. And since then, you can see that the market has just been moving down inch by inch. And of course, moving into the Asian session, you can see how aggressively or how fast the market has really moved, within this region right here. So for this one, the yens are a bit tricky, but I think what I can do, let me just put this level here and maybe have this one somewhere within this region right here. The yens are showing a lot of strength. I think the intervention that the Bank of Japan put in place are possibly now really starting to show their full effects, because the yens were really showing a lot of weakness for the longest time. But right now, there's a lot of strength, that these currency pairs are showing. So hopefully we can get the pullbacks coming in. Remember, if the pullbacks don't come in, then unfortunately getting in on the trades ends up being a bit difficult, because you can imagine, like when the market is just moving like this, like you can't quite read what's happening. But like I pointed out, for guys who've gotten the sells, higher up, then at least, for them it's good, because, they're just sitting there and just getting paid, as the market just continues to move lower and lower. So if you have any yen pairs that you've already, or yen trades that you've taken rather, just make sure that you hang on to them and just keep managing, because we don't know how far these things are really going to go. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas that we have. hopefully this slowdown that's starting to happen within here could possibly end up leading us into getting a good entry, hopefully somewhere within this region here. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in within here, or if we can read that pullback, then hopefully we can get some sales and see we can end up breaking this region to the downside, and hopefully also get some yen pairs going or some yen trades going. So also watch out for this region at the top there. Slim chance price could get there, but if it does, just make sure that you have that level ready so that in case something shows up, then you will make the most out of it. So the next one is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. Similar situation, you can see that the markets are coming down, which is okay. So for this one, these are the three areas that we had yesterday. In the morning, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region here. And you can see that at around 9:10, price was just hovering within here. Then you can see that at 10, during the London market open, the price started coming down quite aggressively. So this one could have been a bit tricky to grab, unless maybe looking at it at a smaller time frame just to see the detail, within that region there. But you can see that the sellers came down. Then you can see that at exactly 3, which is during the US session open, price was back in within there. And of course, just reading this could have been a good sell coming down. And I think it was Mark, if my memory serves me right. I think Mark Imori who got the sell within there, which was the best here to look for the sell. Just reading and looking at the detail on the smaller time frame. So for this one, for today, these are the 3 areas that we're going to be watching out for the selling opportunities. They seem a bit tight, but it's also based on the fact that the yens are not really giving that much in terms of pullbacks. You could wait for the deep pullbacks, but you might find that the deep pullbacks might not really end up coming in based on the sheer strength that the yens are showing. So make sure that you watch out for these 3 areas right here. The market breaks to the downside of this region and we get something similar to this, then you could possibly try and see whether you could get, your selling opportunities within this region right here. But right now, give the buyers the benefit of doubt. Let's see if they can be able to push the market, somewhere at least as close as possible within here during the London session. And we will try and see whether we could get ourselves. This one is a bit of a long shot, but of course, just keep your eyes open for that region, right? In case the market gets back there, then at least you will be ready for that. So moving on into the next yen pair. So this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. Definitely you can see the strength on the yen on this one as well, coming down. These are the 3 areas that we had pointed out yesterday. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within here, so at around 9:10. Wanted to see the market either come back in within there or somewhere within this region here. Consider the market broke to the downside. Exactly what happened with the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen during the London session. And you can see that at 3, the market was back in within this region. If we did attempt sales of this area right here or somewhere within this region, then definitely you can see that those sales did work out. And of course, moving into the Asian session, you can see that the yens have definitely picked up a lot of steam. So for this one, these are the 3 areas we're going to be watching out for. So just make sure that you do take note of them. They're also quite tight, but like I pointed out, you could find that maybe the pullbacks might come in quite shallow. So just make sure that you do watch out for those 3 areas. This one is similar to the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. They seem to be moving in a similar manner. The breach happened during the London, the pullback, coming in during the US, the move starting to happen during the Asian session, the market picking up, and right now it's back in within a buyer's region, exactly similar to what's happening also on this one. So that means that if you end up seeing something on one, make sure that you also have a look at the other yen. You could find that since they're moving together, so that even on the entry, you could find that you could get maybe a handful of pips just by looking at correlation. But like I always point out, make sure that you also take your risk into consideration. Don't jump in on all of them heavy, because in case things do end up turning against you, then I don't think things are going to be very good for you. So also look at the flip side as well. So moving on into the last currency pair, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sales. And you can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. And of course, this one is also exactly similar to the rest of the yens that we've looked at. You can see that the move did happen during the London session. The London big boys broke this region to the downside. So you wouldn't really have known if they would have pushed the market up. And that's why I pointed out caution in terms of looking for the sales somewhere within here. So the market broke to the downside, which is okay. The market came back in and held within this region. And of course, off that region, if you look for the sales, you can see that the market came to the downside. So for this one for today, similar situation with the rest of the yens that we've already looked at. The market is back within a support area just like it was yesterday. We can't quite tell if the market is going to break to the downside. There's a high possibility it will. I mean, based on the fact that we can see that the yens are showing a lot of strength. But of course, it's never too good to be overconfident. Always wait and see because you never really know. So if the market breaks to the downside, similar to what happened within here, and we get the pullback coming in, you could find that during the US session, we could get some good sales and we could continue with the sales. But in case the big boys do need a fresh pair of legs, you could find that maybe they could actually incite some buyers to come in, within this region right here. Maybe even stop out a lot of late sellers because right now, considering the fact that the market has come down, and of course, during the Asian session, it's really sped up within this region. Definitely a lot of people are jumping in on the sell. So they might not really know what they're signing up for until maybe the buyers show up and they get stopped out. So let's just hope that the market pulls back in within this region. If it does, then at least we could look for some proper selling opportunities within there. Definitely targeting or managing your trades within here, even if you will be targeting areas much, much lower. So make sure that you watch out for that. Remember the red SNR. In case the market breaks above that, then I guess that currency pair will be off our watch list for today. So that's pretty much it for all the currency pairs. So for the guys who came in late, feel free to take a screenshot of that. This is what our plan is going to be looking like for today. So I guess we can move on to the indices and the commodities. And you can see that there's only been one change, which is gold joining the buy side, but everything else is pretty much the same. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative within here. In the morning when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region right here at around 9:30, 10, 9:10. And you can see that we're talking about maybe the price attempts to break to the upside comes back in, we could look for the sells. But also watch out in case the market broke to the upside and actually held within this region, then you could have looked for your buying opportunities. And you can see that the market really attempted to break, above this region. Somewhere within this region where we did have some sellers, just clear that. And you can see that unfortunately they just couldn't get going. In as much as price did really seem like it held. So even if you got buys there, you definitely needed to manage. But you can see that the sellers were able to push the market back to the downside of this region right here. And during the Asian session, even with that gap, you can see that the market has continued to move down lower. So the attempt within that region of the buyers was not really that successful, although it was a bit of a confusing situation within this region here. But I think generally these sellers within this region really held the market. And of course, maybe looking for the buys or timing the buys after the market had cleared this would have possibly been the wiser decision. But you can see that the sellers have come down and today they're pushing the market down lower. So the levels are the same on this one. The market hasn't really moved far and beyond. We're still going to be timing selling opportunities, but make sure that you do wait and see. Hopefully we can get the market, coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. Then we could try and see whether we could get some sales. Don't really look for the sales now. Reason being, if you look to the left, you can see that within this region, we have a support region there. You can see that the buyers have pushed the market to the upside of this region here. And you can see that even when the market came down, you can see this bounce of that area right there. That tells you that there are definitely some buyers within there. So you don't really want to be looking for your selling opportunities within this region. Give the buyers the benefit of doubt. Hopefully, if they can get the market back somewhere within here, maybe at around 3, 4:30, could find some proper selling opportunities to come down, targeting down within this region. But of course, if you get issues within this area on your way down, then at least you can manage your trades, within that region. If you get something similar to this, like someone who got a sell within here, and then the market starts to behave like this, within this region, then at least it's not a bad idea to manage at that point in time. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But of course, if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, you could look for more conservative entries. In terms of looking for sales within here, like if the market breaks beneath here and then maybe starts to hold within here and you're looking for some sales, unless maybe you're some sort of a scalper, so that, because the risk to reward based on the 3-minute and the 15 might not really make much sense. Unless you're really going to be scalping maybe on the 1-minute time frame, I would possibly advise you not to, because you'll possibly even find yourself maybe getting into some sort of a squeeze within this area right here. So you're better off maybe waiting for the market to break beneath this region to the downside, or maybe if you get the sales higher up, maybe somewhere within that region, maybe targeting down within here is much, much better. So watch out for that. Also remember the region at the top, in case the market goes all the way up there, you still could look for sells. But remember, it's all dependent on what happens when the market comes back in within that region. So moving on into the next one, which is the Dow Jones or the US 30 or the WS 30. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could get some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And there was also this blue level that I had put based on, the previous day what had happened. And I pointed out that you could also watch out for that region as well on your way down. So you can see that at around 9:10, price was somewhere within here, broke to the upside, pushed to the upside, came back in, unfortunately couldn't hold. And you can see that there was a real mess that was going on within this region. Sometimes the market was holding to the upside, but sometimes it was also holding to the downside. But generally, like we always say, the flow or the trend is your friend, the general flow of the market. So you can see that the market came down because generally the sellers are still in control within this region. So it's not really surprising to see that they came in. And you can see that the market started to calm down. This was during the US session, really not much of a pullback. This level over here gave a bit of an issue during the Asian session, but you can see that they were able to clear that region and the market came all the way down to within this area. So for this one, the levels are the same, so feel free to take note of them. They're exactly the same as yesterday. Don't look for your selling opportunities right now. Wait and see if you can't get the market breaking beneath this region to the downside. And see that the market has formed some sort of a range within this area right here. So right now we're at the bottom of the range. Sales should not be taking place at the bottom of the range. Unless the market breaks this region to the downside, then maybe if we get confirmation that it's holding below, then we could possibly look for those sales. But remember that also spikes can happen within here. So also don't be too quick to look for your selling opportunities, because sometimes what happens is the market breaks to the downside. If you're too quick in terms of jumping in on yourself and you don't wait for the confirmation, the market can't come back in. You need to see the market maybe even attempt to come back within this region here and possibly hold to the downside before you look for your selling opportunities. So a bit of patience is needed, because the market can easily probe within here, hold to the upside and find it back within this region right here. You could find that maybe at around 3-4:30, price could be back in within this region. So just make sure that you really do watch out for that. But remember that for as long as we're holding below the red SNR, the bias should be to look for those selling opportunities. So moving on into the second last thing that we look at each and every morning. So this is silver. For silver, yesterday the bias was to look for sales. Today, the bias still remains. You can see the three areas right there that we have pointed out, but we've adjusted them slightly just based on the story of what's happening within this particular region right here. You can see that the market has formed some sort of a range, within this area right here. In the morning yesterday, when we were looking at the charts, the market was down here. In fact, this is a good example of what I was discussing on the previous one, the Dow Jones, whereby the market seemed like it broke the range to the downside, but it was able to come back into the upside. So you can imagine guys who are trigger happy just because the market broke to the downside and they started hitting sales within here. I think right now they're not very amused with their decisions. So just make sure that you wait. And you can see that the market came back in within this region, actually held to the upside of this area. You can see that during the US session, the market started to push to the upside, and within the Asian session, you can see that the market has continued to push to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for these three areas right here. So the red SNR, for as long as we're holding below that, then we should be expecting to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. It's only when the market breaks above here and holds above here that we will start to look for those buying opportunities. So let's see what happens. The market is within a strategic area. The only thing that is missing out is that we can't quite yet see, a sign of the big sellers showing up. If they do end up showing up within here, then we will make sure that we do justice with that sell coming down, hopefully back into within this region right here. So let's see what happens. And of course, watch out for the region at the top. Definitely could find the market back in within that region for a proper sell as well, on aggressive sell within that region as well. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right here that I have pointed out. For as long as we're holding below here, the bias was to look for sales. There was this region, the semi-aggressive conservative region within there, and this region right here, the conservative area. So yesterday, when we're looking at the charts, price was somewhere within this region. So you can see that at around 9:10, price was within here. I wanted to see, we could have gotten something to tell us to look for sales within here. Unfortunately, we couldn't get that. The market broke to the upside, came back in just shy of that area. You can see that during the US session open, the market attempted to come down, although in a very choppy manner. This is not what we wanted to see. And you can see that after that, it's like the market just went stagnant within this region right here. And only during the Asian session, you can see that the Asian big boys have started to push the market to the upside. So for this one, we're going to be going the other way. So we're going to be watching out for this region here. Don't really look for buying opportunities right now. You can see that we come back in within some sort of a seller's region or a resistance area. So give those sellers or that region the benefit of doubt. Let's see if we can get the market coming back in somewhere within this as close as possible, maybe within here. Hopefully, if these sellers can react and we could find that maybe 3 or 430 price could be back in within here. If this price is not good enough, then maybe they might need this price as well. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But also make sure that you wait and see. If the price can break above this region to the upside, if the sellers here have nothing to say, then we need to see the buyers break to the upside of that region, then can possibly end up getting, the market coming back in on the retest, pullback within this region for us to look for the buying opportunity. So just make sure that you watch out for that. So give these sellers the benefit of doubt. Remember, for the indices and the commodities, we give direction in terms of buys and sells, but also if you want to take counters, that also applies on everything else that we end up showing. We're just sharing our analysis and where the big boys could be pushing the market. But if you want to be hitting some sells within here, let's say you've seen what you need to see and you can see some good selling opportunities in terms of the counter, you still can end up taking them. It's just that you just need to have an awareness at the back of your mind that generally you're going against the flow and could get stopped out, at any given point in time without any warning. Because also when it comes to counters, you can't take a counter here and target all the way down here. Remember, counters can turn off at any given point in time, even in minor SNRs, such as this one. You could find that the market might just come back in within here and immediately the buyers just show up out of nowhere. So you can easily end up getting, taken out blindsided. That's the reason why we give the direction, but ideally if you want to take the counters, then that's purely up to you and up to your trading plan. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs and everything else that we're going to be watching out for. So I think we can end up looking at the Q&A section real quick, see what guys are saying. So I see 2 questions there from Peter Onyango. Good to see you. You're saying, hello, Afriforex team. What is your take on ensuring that one does not overtrade in the event that there are multiple opportunities that avail themselves based on the watch list in place? Good question. I think it goes with which setups give the best risk to reward, because setups may show up, all of them together at the same time, but now it's up to you to pick which one gives you the best risk to reward, right? So if the one that serves to give you the best risk to reward, that is the one that you should possibly be taking. So let me put it that way. The one that gives you the best risk to reward, maybe with the least risk. I think that is the trade that you should definitely be taking. So possibly watch out for that. But if you have to take all of them, let's say if you can't quite figure out which one to take and which one not to take because they still all look so good, what you can end up doing is possibly end up splitting the risk. So let's say, for example, if on any given day, you possibly end up taking a risk of, let's say, 5%, that's the maximum risk that you actually take on a given day. So just divide that by the number of setups that you have, do the calculations in terms of the lots, and then after that, you'll actually just end up taking your trades. So you could look at it like that. You could look at it in terms of taking the trades that give you the best risk to rewards and, use that as a criteria to pick the ones that you're going to take from the ones that you're not going to take. So I think if you end up using that, I think you should be fine. But also on the other hand, because of correlation, you can also end up balancing things out. Let's say, for example, if you've seen quite a number of yens that are good, and quite a number of USDs that are good, and CHFs and GBPs or euros we're looking out for today, you could possibly end up splitting the risk so that the correlation, in case it works against you, then at least to some extent it's like you've hedged. So let's say if you take a yen pair and the yens don't work, at least the euro pairs might work. If the euro pairs don't work, maybe the USDs might work. If the USDs don't work, maybe the CHFs. Highly unlikely you'll find that all of them will all end up failing. So to some extent, you could also end up hedging. So instead of taking 4 yen pairs, you could possibly end up taking one of each, and that way maybe you could hedge. If one fails, at least the others will hold them up. So I hope that sorts you out. But that's a really interesting question. And I see that you also end up having a rejoinder to that. You're saying, in terms of risk management, what are your sentiments on the incorporation of trading stops? Trailing stops. Trailing stops are important. We always advise guests to use trailing stops. Reason being, the market can always turn off at any given point in time without any warning. Something could happen, you know. World War III could start, God forbid. You don't know. You're just sitting here on the charts. Things are going well. All of a sudden, things end up turning around and you're wondering what happened. Before you find out what's going on, you've already taken losses. So we always advise, make sure that you always do trail. In as much as you take a trade, have your stop loss, have your take profit, and it's okay to set and go, have a set and go type of mentality. But it's also good to make sure that in as much as the market is always moving towards your take profit, make sure that you're also moving your stop losses higher and higher, just making sure that you're securing, as the market is going higher and higher. So there's the trailing stop, one aspect of it. The other aspect is also making sure that you're managing some of your trades, which means that you're closing some of your positions, at least for as long as you're trading over 0.01, then ideally you should be able to close your trade as the market is going. So if you make sure that you end up using those two in terms of your trading, it will end up becoming much better. Because like we pointed out, there are three scenarios in any trade. If you take a trade, number one, it can go to your take profit. That's what everyone wants. Number two, the market can actually just go straight to your stop loss. We don't want that, but it happens. There's nothing you can do about it. The third scenario is that the market can actually start to move in your favor, but can actually end up turning against you. That one is the most painful. Of course, there's a fourth scenario that you can add, whereby the market goes against you, doesn't hit your stop loss, but goes up. Those ones, they don't really affect you psychologically. I mean, in fact, you end up being very happy about those ones. But the ones that really get you are the ones whereby you took a trade, the market started moving in your favor, you did not take any cash. In fact, you're just sitting there, just excited, only for the market to turn against you and hit your stop loss. Those ones really hit you hard, psychologically, emotionally. Those ones hit you hard. And so to protect yourself from those ones, because those ones can really also eat into your confidence as a trader, to make sure that you're properly protected from such kind of scenarios. That's the reason why it's always best to make sure that when the market starts to move in your favor, make sure that you start to trail. And when I talk about trailing, it's not a matter of also putting your stop losses so tight. Make sure that you also give the market sufficient room. Don't try and corner the market, because if you try and corner the market, remember that the market has to give a sequence of higher highs and higher lows. So as it's doing that and your stop loss is there, your stop loss will actually just be clipped. Then after that, the market continues moving up higher after it's taken you out. So just make sure that you incorporate that, but definitely it's something that we do recommend that you do put into your trading. It's going to be very beneficial to you. So I hope that sorts you out, Peter Onyango, but those are some very good questions. I see Wilfred there, you're asking, how do prop firms work? Basically, they give you money to trade. They fund you, basically. And of course, now based on whatever you end up making, you end up getting a profit share out of that. So basically, that's how prop firms do end up working. So it's not your money. It's like they just give you access to an account that has a certain amount of money you trade. Based on the profits you make, you end up getting a share of it. But there is a rigorous process in most of the prop firms that has to be there before you get the funding. So like there are challenges that are there. I'm sure you've heard of the FTMO challenge, whereby you have to trade and hit certain targets within a specific period of time. Then after that, if you do hit those, then at least you can get some sort of funding. So there's a challenge period that's there. Once you end up passing that challenge period, then you get some funding. And of course, now they have different categories of what the fundings that you can get, also based on the various prop firms that are there. So some of them can give you even $200,000, $100,000, $50,000, $5,000. So it's purely based on, the challenge that you end up passing and also the prop firm that you end up going for. So basically, that's how they work. But one thing I can caution you is that not all prop firms are legit. Some of them will actually end up conning you. I've had cases of guys who we've trained, they've become very good, at the one-on-one level. They've traded for some of the prop firms. They've made money. The prop firms have actually defaulted in terms of giving them their payouts. So also make sure that you're also on the lookout for that. Not everyone out there is good. Just the same way there are scammers in every industry, And of course, even when it comes to trading Forex, there are also brokers who are not very good out there. Not all brokers are good. Kuna wengine wakora huko. Same thing even when it comes to prop firms. You make money for them, next thing they don't give you your money. So also make sure that you really do your investigation and your due diligence properly. So I hope that's what Wilfred, and I see Peter Onyango there saying thanks for the clarification. Karibu sana. So I guess that's pretty much it from me and from us. So want to thank guys so much for making the time to be here with us. It's always a pleasure doing this for you guys. We do it with a lot of love for you guys because we want the best for you guys. So I hope that you guys are getting the most out of this session. So in case you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. We'll be more than happy to see them. Remember the AMP August and September class still open. Couple of slots, so feel free to sign up for that. I think there should be a link in the chat box for anyone who wants to join in on that, and we will be and give you much more value on that one. So hopefully we will see you guys tomorrow, and as always, may the pips be with you. Cheers guys, and bye for now.